We had 37 Eurovision entries at the contest in May last year. Of those, 26 won national selections in their own countries. That means there were 26 songs that finished just behind them and could have altered the entire trajectory of the contest. Of those, one of them, in my opinion, could have won the jury vote and possibly won the entire competition. Today, we're going to find out who it is, because we're going through the remaining 13 songs that we didn't cover in the previous video on this topic, and seeing how they could have changed the contest if they'd made it there. In addition to that potential winner, there's also 2 songs that actually won their national selections but didn't go to the contest for varying reasons, and naturally 1 or 2 crimes against both music and humanity. Today, and again, I'm sorry it's taken me about 2 months to do this, we're going to go through 13 more songs that almost participated at Eurovision 2025. Very quickly, I'm going to be starting on videos not about the Eurovision Song Contest on my second channel soon. The link is in the description, so you should subscribe so you don't miss them when they come. Now let's get straight into the second places, and we're starting in Lithuania. That was Lion Kekka with Drobe. Lithuania is one of the countries that I previously said could be the next new winner of the Eurovision Song Contest. With a national final that has high quality entries like this, and of course Tavo Akis that actually went to Eurovision, hopefully it will be easy to see why. This is great, and it came second both with the jury and the public in this selection. Lion Kekka has actually participated in the selection 3 times before, under a different name. In 2025, they shed their old identity in favour of a new one. In an interview with ESC United, they stated that one of their key motivations was to move away from a name that implied some kind of gender, as their previous stage name did. It's difficult to describe this song in brief because it goes to so many different places. There's synth, there's opera, there's dance beat, and there's chiptune for some reason. And in a world of nothing burgers, this is very much an everything bagel. If you're the kind of person who is a fan of things that are weird and wonderful, but also of high level performance and of complex meaning, then this is a song that will be for you. It showcases Lion's vocal abilities really well, while also essentially going on a tour through all kinds of different styles of music. In order, we have a spin on traditional folk singing in rounds, a club dance beat, an operatic chorus, and a chiptunist breakdown, before a return to the club dance style and operatic chorus again for the outro. It's very dramatic, and it takes a lot of left turns. This is going to turn some people off on the basis that it's just a little overly complex and a little overly ambitious. But for me, as someone who's a sucker for artsy things that also slap, it's right up my street. I also think, in general, I'd rather people try too much than too little. How many people fall into a similar category as me is ultimately what would determine how well this does at the contest. Lithuania always performs well with the televote, and it had an extremely favourable draw for the semi-finals in 2025. This means it's 100% chance that it would have qualified. Where it ends up in the final would be a little more difficult to define. That said, I think I'm going to put this in the same envelope of the extremely consistent other recent results that Lithuania has had. They have placed between 8th and 16th in every single one of the last 5 contests. That is a remarkable success rate, and it speaks to the reliability, both of the song quality and the stage quality of their performances. There's no reason to believe that this would be any different. Its divisiveness might cost it a little in some areas, but anything it lost would hopefully be regained by the juries giving it credit for the extremely difficult vocals, as well as the overall creativity of the performance. That said, after what they did to Zierm, I don't have much faith. Overall though, it was an impressive performance. Unlike our next song. From Armenia, their second place in their national final was Simon with his song I Papare Bye. I Papare Bye. I Papare Bye. I had really hoped I would never have to listen to this song again. Unfortunately, we're here now and I've dug my own grave on this. Emerging from the same show that gave us We Na Numa Ditsa Begin is this equally bizarre nonsense. Let's start with the good, which is that the studio version is okay, in the most part, I guess. The production itself has some potentially interesting ideas, and it is put together in a way that doesn't totally suck. Unfortunately, there is so much to be desired in other areas. Let's start with a classic one for this channel, which is the lyrics. Unfortunately, they veer between very standard and ordinary, oh, it's a song about a one-night stand, which is not particularly unusual or scandalous, to the basically nonsensical. I just want to have this fight with you. You just want to have this fight with me. I will get my way, then I better get away, and away I'm gonna get away is say, Ai papere bye. You can forgive odd lyrics if everything else comes together, but it doesn't, not even a little bit. The Armenian national selection was one of the very worst this year, in terms of production and in terms of song quality. But this did just not translate live well at all. Simon's vocals are shouty and practically unintelligible. He just kind of yells his way through the entire performance. Like seriously, what on earth is this?
Bye, 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 bye!
This song and performance is complete nonsense, and it's a relief for Armenia that this didn't win the selection, because it would have had no chance of making it to a qualification in the same way that Prague did. As a broader reflection, if this is the standard of production that we're seeing at this national selection, then it should not take place again in 2026. Let's move on now and leave this in the past, just as all of you should with the Garg joke. Next up is Greece, and in second place there was Evangelia with her song Vale. Evangelia has a long history of trying to go to Eurovision, and we actually know she is trying again in 2026. There are elements that I hope she's brought with her from 25 and elements that I don't. The production on her 2025 effort, which we're going to talk about, is excellent, but the song itself just needs a little more edge. Evangelia is a great performer, and it won't surprise you to know that she's delivered a really well-rounded performance, fitting of a song like this, which is boilerplate, it's perfectly formed, it's very straightforward, and also kind of uninteresting. This is the first but not the last song in this video that feels like it was written to be an anthem during a World Cup, rather than go to Eurovision. And therein lies the key problem, especially given the burden of high expectations that she had coming into this selection. I just expected a little more. The song is fine, and it's one of the ones in this video that I'd be inclined to go back to and listen to again. But I can't help but ask, what exactly is it that Evangelia is offering us here that is unique, that only she can give us? I've heard songs like this on countless occasions before. What is especially odd is that the song kind of feels like it recognizes this. It feels insecure in a way. Out of nowhere, there is a bridge section that doesn't fit with the rest of the song in any way whatsoever, introducing a totally different set of melodies and instruments, before stopping as suddenly as it started and going right back to the original. It's almost like they finished the song and thought, shit, this is too generic. Quick, throw in something ethnic to give it some taste. This kind of throwaway addition takes away from the song rather than adding to it. It's a straight down the line piece of pop that you can dance to on the beach. If that's what it's going to be, then fine, but lean into it. Don't split its personality and undermine its purpose. This is the Samantha Mumba rule. You can't just jam two things together and claim that they're one song because they're happening in the same 3-minute runtime. These grievances aside, it's not like the final product isn't, at least in some ways, still suited to Eurovision. It's the kind of thing that would at least pop out a little in the lineup, and it's kind of important to have these refreshing, unchallenging bits of music, rather than a lineup full of the experimental and the avant-garde. At the same time, there's no chance this would have reached anything like the extraordinary heights that Astro Marta ended up reaching in the final. It would have made it there, probably, but I can't imagine it higher than 15th to 20th place. Next, we have the first of two in this video that actually won its selection. That's Montenegro, Neonoen, with their song Clickbait. This is a bit of a weird one. Neonoen won the Montenegrin selection and seemed to be on their way to Eurovision, only for it to be uncovered that they had performed their song before the 1st of September 2024. For those of you who don't know, there is a cut-off date in the Eurovision rules that says that the 1st of September, the year before the contest, is the earliest date on which your song can be publicly performed. This led to the Montenegrin broadcaster commencing an investigation, but before it could conclude, Neonoen voluntarily withdrew. The question is, could this have done any better than Nina Žižić, who finished last in the semi-final? The answer, in my view, is maybe. It had no chance of reaching the final anyway, but it could have come slightly higher. Unfortunately, as was the case with most of the field in the Montenegrin selection last year, this just isn't a very good song. Credit where credit is due, the actual hook is catchy enough for it to stick in Eurovision fans' memories, but that alone does not make for a run to the finals. I just don't understand what the audience would be for this at the contest. It's a fairly pedestrian rock song that, while listenable, just doesn't really lend itself to this kind of format. It was a major shock that it won the national selection in the first place, and doing something at Eurovision would have been even more difficult. Staying close by, we're going over the border now to Serbia. Second place in their national final was Harem Girls with their song Aladdin. I've covered Serbia a couple of times on this channel over the last year, and I've highlighted as well how their national selection has on more than one occasion been an outlet for LGBT plus cultural expression in a country that doesn't afford it that many opportunities. Harem Girls are a really great example of this, along with artists like Filari. But to be clear, the merits of this song extend far beyond that lens. It is a strong song and a strong performance in its own right. Just like with Montenegro, this is a song that would be stepping into the shoes of a dramatic failure. In this case, Prince, whose main impact at the contest was wiping the stage for the next artist during his performance. For Serbia, this was the worst semi-final result in their entire time at Eurovision. Harem Girls would not have ended up in the same position. This takes the wide appeal of Balkan pop music and it adds that little flair, that little edge that I was hoping for. That flair is something that is going to come very naturally to drag performers who specialize in delivering that kind of energy in their shows. In my opinion, that experience really shone through because this is delivered with a confidence and a charisma that makes it easier to forgive the occasional vocal and technical slips that were admittedly made during this performance. Had they won the national selection, they would have been bringing this song to an audience that in all likelihood would have been more likely to want to engage with it than the domestic audience. And that would have paid off with an appearance for Serbia in the final. In comparison to the snooze fest that Prince delivered, this is like a bucket of water over the head. In the first instance, even if it's not your thing, you're going to notice it. You'll remember it, and when it comes to vote, you might just end up picking up your phone for it as well. When it comes to the final, I imagine the juries would turn up their noses at it in the same way they do with everything that's from the Balkans or Eastern Europe more broadly, but I do think they would get some well-deserved love from the public. This would make a roughly 20th place finish overall. We may well get to find out if this prediction is true because Harem Girls are confirmed as returning for the Serbian national selection in 2026. Given they would have won the public vote last year if it weren't for the obvious rigging of Bojana and David, they have to be considered a serious contender to win the whole thing this time around. Below Serbia on the map, but above them in the World Cup qualifying, we're now going to Albania. That was Elvana Gjata with her song Carnaval. The return of Elvana Gjata is something that Eurovision fans have been looking forward to for a long time. Her entry in 2020, Metana, which also finished second in this selection, was one of the most hyped songs from Albania that I can remember in my entire time engaged with Eurovision. After the shock defeat in 2020, Elvana has topped basically every wish list for the last half a decade. And in 2025, she finally came back. But when she did, while it was with a bang, it was a small and underwhelming one. Much like Evangelia before, Elvana brought what is essentially a World Cup style song, which means it was catchy, it was summery, and it was well suited to a beach or a street party, but also a song with a profound lack of anything that felt Albanian. This certainly wasn't the case with Metana, and as a result, it left something to be desired. My initial instinct, I should say, was very different. Having not heard any of the other songs in the Albanian selection, and with a far too hasty presumption of the quality of what the other songs would be, I presumed that this would still wipe the floor with the competition on every single level. That was one of my stinkiest predictions of last year. What we got was, unfortunately, a performance that only lived up to what we hoped for in flashes. We had a catchy song, but Elvana was static, and there were more than a few really strange moments. This very odd trust fall looked awkward on stage and still confuses me to this very day, and the conclusion of the performance made no sense either, with Elvana completely still and entirely separate from the dancers. The vibe was totally wrong. Elvana's own charisma and ability then was what dragged an average song with a mismatched staging into contention. I don't think we would have been talking about this as a potential Eurovision entry if anyone else had been singing it. As for how it would have done at the contest, I'm sure that star power would have still counted for something. It wouldn't have come quite close to the extraordinary heights that Zerm reached, and certainly wouldn't have reached the level of cult success that that song has had amongst Eurovision fans, but it nonetheless would have made the final, and it would have done reasonably well. That's because Elvana is massively popular with the Albanian diaspora, and the song is fairly accessible. One day she probably will make it to Eurovision. This was not the song to do it. Next, we're on our way to Denmark. That was Tim Schou with his song Proud.
I wish I would have told him I'm proud of who you are. It's fine if you feel broken.
Ah, Denmark. The Eurovision equivalent of a bread sandwich. The ham sandwich, water bottle, ready salted crisps meal deal amongst Eurovision national selections. This lives up to that mantle perfectly. Tim Schou previously participated in Eurovision in 2011 with his band A Friend in London. They did pretty well and finished 5th. Denmark has fallen on tougher times in recent years, and this song wouldn't have helped. There are very many indie men out there making indie man pop songs with an indie man aesthetic. The sheer number of these indie men makes them not very indie and not very interesting either. There's just not that much personality in this performance, nor is there really that many distinguishing features to it. Like, it's just a dude singing a dude song. It kind of feels like a song that the UK would have sent in the mid-2010s and finished last with. Naturally, that means the Danish public put this in first place. Luckily, the jury had just enough sense to push Sissal ahead by a single point. As a result of that, it won't surprise you to know that I really don't think that this would have done what Sissal did by breaking Denmark's non-qualification record. This would have ended up plumbing the depths of the semi-final instead, which is great news for the milkshake man, but bad news for a country that before this year had one of the worst non-qualification streaks in the whole contest. Consider this a bullet dodged. It's Malta next, and second place there was Kristy Spiteri with her song Heaven Sent.
Boy, you must be heaven sent, 'cause what the hell did you do to me?
Kristy Spiteri romped home with the jury in the Maltese national selection. She had a 14-point lead going into the public vote and looked like she was going to take it home. Unfortunately for her, she was crowded out by the viral popularity of Cunt, as well as the superbly named Lala Ratata Keke, Lala Rata Kaboom. Cunt actually going to the contest was a massive success for Malta and for Mariana Conte in just about every single way except for the final result. Despite the virality and massive conversation that it sparked and the huge attention it brought both to Malta and to Mariana Conte as an artist as a result, rather than the expected comfortable qualification, she ended up scraping through to the final in 9th place, followed by a total public vote flop in that final. This supposed public vote magnet came 23rd in that section with just 8 points. Kristy Spiteri's participation would have looked very different. It would have meant that Taya, who seems to be collecting opera singers like Pokemon cards, would have had 2 of them in this contest alone, with the other being eventual winner JJ. That said, what Heaven Sent has in its corner is that its appeal would have been totally different to Cunt, and that comes with a huge variance in where it could have ended up. This song is exceptionally technically difficult, it has extraordinary range and an operatic chorus that would sound terrible if it were even slightly off pitch. It's a massive credit to Kristy, then, that she was able to make it work, even if it felt at times like she was maybe chasing the song a little bit rather than leading it herself. Given that she was only 19 at the time of the selection, it's a massive credit to her that this worked at all. Taking on a project of this technical difficulty and pulling it off is hugely creditable. As well as that, this actually quietly became one of my most played national final songs of 2025. It's catchy, it's quickly memorable, and also it's quirky and technically challenging. In particular, I really want to praise the bridge of this song, which is one of the best I've heard in this context in years, and had bags of potential to be a huge moment on the Eurovision stage. The real question is then, could Kristy have scaled it in the way she would have needed to qualify? That would have meant tightening up the vocals ever so slightly so it didn't quite feel like she was hanging on for dear life, which did emerge at 1 or 2 points, although she did keep it going, as well as persuading the European public. Because if this was a 50-50 system with the jury in the semi-finals like they're going to be in 2026, this would have sailed through no problem. For me, based on the other songs in this semi-final and based on my impression of this performance, I do think she would have scraped through just as Cunt did. What would have been different would have been the final. If she absolutely smashed this performance on the Eurovision stage, the sky would have been the limit with the juries, and we could have seen 150 or even 200 points on that side. That's already significantly more than what Cunt received altogether. And with a sprinkling of points from the public, you might be looking at a 10th to 15th placed finish, which would be highly impressive. Now we're going to Finland. In second place there was Goldilocks with her song Made Of.
A lover, a traitor, a poison, a sailor.
At the start of this video, I teased a potential winner and now we're there. Now, the song is always the most important thing, but I have to tell you, even if you are not a big fan of this, you have to go and watch the national final performance. The staging is absolutely genius and is among the best I've seen at any level in this competition. The vocal is good too, despite the fact that Goldilocks was so ill, it was a playback feed from the rehearsals. She had severe laryngitis the entire week and was already sick during those rehearsals, but on the night of the show, she couldn't sing or speak at all. Even when unwell, she still sounds good and would have been even better at the contest. The staging was once again crafted by the genius that is Sergio Harem, who was behind Doomsday Blue and is now a Eurovision winner himself because he was the one who staged JJ's song as well. What I love about this is that it's genius in its simplicity. It's the right choice of camera angles and a flexible but straightforward prop in the form of a few rings and some Goldilocks lookalikes. It comes together in a way that is so impressive, and it does help as well that the song is really catchy. And Goldilocks' voice is so unique. This is difficult for me because I adore Erica Vickman and I adore Ishkoma, but I have to be honest, I genuinely think this would have done better at Eurovision. I wouldn't change the result of UMK for the world, and Erica was robbed at the main contest, just to be clear. But having now seen the results, I just can't help but think, what could have been? The mark to win the jury vote this year was JJ with 258 points. By recent years' standards, that is extraordinarily low. The mark to win overall was 436, which is so freakishly low that you have to go back to 2011 for any kind of comparable outcome. It was, at the very least, a once-in-a-decade outlier. The question I want to answer here is there really any reason why Goldilocks couldn't have scored 260 or 270 from the juries? And if so, is there any reason why 150 or 170 wouldn't have been possible from the public? The answer is no, there's no reason why not. This means it could have been a legitimate contender to win the entire contest and certainly to win the jury votes. I can see the comments coming for this already, by the way. Oh, it's Gabe, he's glazing Finland again. He said Erica was going to win, and so on and so forth. Shut up. I don't care, I'm saying it anyway. It's not my fault that Finland is really, really good at this. And UMK this is consensus, not just my view, one of, if not the best national selection format anywhere in Europe right now. It produces contenders every single year. The same may well end up happening in 2026 too. I've just realized this video is releasing after the artists will be announced, so I might look really silly by the time it comes out. In any case, I do think we're going to be in Tampere or Helsinki by 2030. From the very pinnacle to the very basement, we're now going to Luxembourg. That's 0.5 with their song Ride.
So baby, hold on for the ride of your life.
No, not that one.
Because you know, we just wanna feel alive.
For me, the Luxembourgish selection was one of generally poor quality in 2025, with the notable exception of the winner Laura Thorne. That's symbolised very well by the fact that her runner-up was a Milk Toast Mumford & Sons knockoff that Denmark and Germany would have been proud of. This kind of thing has just been done over and over and over again, mostly in the mid-2010s and mostly better than this. I wasn't a fan of this kind of song to start with, because it's derivative and it's generic. But unfortunately, then the live performance happened and made it even worse. The vocal delivery is nowhere to be seen, and it's giving more local pub performance than it's giving Eurovision. Needless to say, had this gone to the contest, we wouldn't have seen the clever and inventive staging that propelled Luxembourg into a very comfortable qualification. In fact, we wouldn't have seen them in the final at all. This would have not gotten close, and it's a bullet dodged by not sending them. Despite the best efforts of the Luxembourgish public, who awarded this a televote victory by a massive 20 points. Thankfully, the juries had already seen to it that nobody but Laura had any chance of winning. I never want to listen to this again. Staying firmly in Eurovision's grey belt, we're now going to Germany. Lyza was second in their selection with her song Lovers on Mars.
We could be lovers on Mars.
Lyza came to this selection with very little experience and no vocal training. There's a lot to credit her for then, that she delivered a really solid performance despite the presumably overwhelming pressure and nerves that come with performing in front of millions of people when you've barely sat on a stage before. Joining her on stage were some acrobats dressed as astronauts, which was silly but really quite fun. The problem is, while this song is nicer to listen to, and I certainly like it more than the slop that we had from Luxembourg, it falls into the deadly trap that so many German Eurovision entries tend to. It's radio-friendly pop. Sure, it'll get some radio play in Germany, but it would crash and burn at Eurovision like so many before it. It's simply not suited at all to that kind of environment. I doubt this would have gotten zeroed in the final, to be clear, but it would not have had the appeal that the actual entry, Balla, did, and it wouldn't have gotten far off that zero mark. Lyza is talented and deserves an opportunity at the contest one day with something a little more fun. This wasn't the song for the contest though, and I'm sure she knows that as well. Now we have the second song in this video that won its national selection, but the artist didn't go, and in this case it's Italy. That's Ollie with his song Balorda Nostalgia. It's Italy has a unique system where the winner of the Sanremo Music Festival is offered a chance to go to Eurovision, but they can and sometimes do say no. For that reason, it wasn't unheard of when Ollie decided he'd rather keep his pre-existing tour dates and not go to the contest. Ballo Nostalgia is an extremely Italian ballad, very much in the style that we've seen quite frequently at Eurovision before. Marco Mengoni's two efforts are good examples of this, with L'Essenziale probably being the most similar. Now, this has its benefits and its drawbacks. The obvious benefit is that this style has been demonstrated to be timeless and has a huge natural advantage in the form of the Italian language. This formula works repeatedly because the singer is always good, the Italian language is romantic, it's dramatic, and it's poetic. And it's considered to be so on a level so universal that most other languages cannot even come close to meeting. This style gives a lot of room for impressive vocals as well, which Ollie surely, or hopefully, would have demonstrated on the Eurovision stage. The downside of this is that it comes with natural limits as well. Italy has not won the contest since it returned with a song in this style, even when considered among the favourites, as they have been on several occasions. It's a reliable formula to get to the top 10, but not all the way to the top. For that reason, I feel pretty confident about where this would have ended up. Just like Marco Mengoni, Ermal Meta and Fabrizio Moro, Mahmoud and Blanco, and then Marco Mengoni again, this would have ended up somewhere between 4th and 7th. That is a superb result by the metrics of almost any country. That said, Italy has a higher baseline and a higher ceiling than most, and I'm glad that we at least got something a little different in the form of Lucio Corsi. I would have sorely missed both Lucio's harmonica solo and, of course, Topo Gigio as a spokesmouse, neither of which would have happened if Ollie had gone to the contest. We have one more song to cover, but we've come to the end of any in tune singing for the day. That's because we're going to Spain, which was Daniela Blasco with her song Nana. Daniela Blasco is such a huge fan of Beyoncé that she decided to remake Crazy in Love. Seriously though, this is an energetic, aggressive piece of pop music that carries a distinctly Latin feel. It's nicely put together as well, and Daniela, at least on the side of stage presence and choreo, embodies everything that this song needs. Unfortunately, there is one area which is severely lacking, and that is her vocals. I'm really trying not to be too mean here because I do like the song, and I enjoyed the performance in spite of this. But it seems clear to me that the demands of the stage performance took precedence over the importance of keeping the vocals in tune, which they weren't. There were really not very many nicely done notes in this song, and as the performance progresses, you find yourself increasingly focused on the smorgasbord of bum notes that are being presented to you. In some ways, this does enhance its credentials as a certified disaster bop, which makes me kind of love it more in some ways, but on an objective level, it is really not good. I should say that Daniela was only 19 at the time, so I should credit the ambition of this and recognise the fact that she has an awfully long time to develop as an artist and improve this side of her performance. Overall, did I enjoy it? Yes, very much so. But we have to be honest here. If you send a song with vocals like this to Eurovision, you're at a serious risk of getting a flat 0 from the juries. Before anyone points to the Tommy Cash-sized hole in this argument, I am aware of that, but this is worse. And it wouldn't have charmed the European public as he somehow managed to. Could this have cleared the extremely low 37-point bar set by Melody in the final? I'm not sure it could. I think it would have ended up in roughly the same place. With that, we've come to the end of this video. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget about that second channel I mentioned at the start. The link to that is down below. We have lots to come over the next few months, both hopefully in the Eurovision world and in non-Eurovision world, and I really hope I'll be seeing you there. For now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in a few days' time.